You've heard it before. You've got to hold your audience's attention. Here's the truth. No one's telling you. Most of what passes as advice about how to do it is wildly outdated. The old playbooks, they're just not cutting it anymore because they were built for an era when attention spans were much longer. Today's audiences are different. They are busier, they are more distracted, but they're also sharper. They have sat through dozens, if not hundreds of presentations by this point, and often they feel nothing. What you need isn't more tips and tricks. You need a completely new approach to how to get your audience engaged. You need to stop presenting to your audience and start designing an experience around them. In this video, I'm going to show you the new way that we have used with 6 time-tested audience engagement techniques. We've used them here at Duarte for years. We've used them in hundreds of keynotes for presenters at big companies, for executives, for teams, all with the goal of helping them capturing and holding the audience's attention until their very last word. Most people say you need to know your audience to give an effective presentation. And yes, of course you do. But that's not enough anymore. We have found that you need to shape your entire presentation around making your audience the hero. At Duarte, we use something we call the audience needs map to help get to this idea, and I've linked it for you in the description below. It's a simple but powerful tool, and it helps you think not just about what your audience does, but about who they really are, how they think, what drives them every single day. Because if you don't actually understand them, how can you make them the hero? Let's do some of it together right now. Think about people you present to at work. So maybe for you, it's customers, or it's leaders, or it's direct reports. Now, start with their challenges. What's in their way right now? What pressures are they under today? Then look at the motivations. What would success really look like for them after they've heard you give a presentation? Think about their mindset. Are they already excited? Are they skeptical? Maybe they're burnt out. They're hopeful. Finally, consider how they make decisions. Do they lead with data, with vision, emotion, consensus? Answering these questions will tell you more than 100 bios ever could. So let's say you are presenting to a room full of execs. On the surface, it looks like one audience. They are leaders. They are decision makers. But if you pause and look a little closer, you start to see all the layers. Maybe half that room is knee-deep in a massive reorg. Those teams are stressed. They have been asked to lead through ambiguity, and they are tired. Now, the other half, well, they're on the hook to deliver a return on investment, and they've got to get there fast. They've got stakeholders watching, and they've got budgets to justify, and they are scanning for anything that helps them move faster and make smarter decisions. But here's the good news. Even though those challenges look like they're different on the surface, they actually have something in common. Both groups of people are under pressure. They're both being asked to lead with clarity in a time that feels anything but clear. And they're both searching for tools and stories and ideas that help them guide their teams and move the business forward. That's your opening. It's where you step in, not as their hero, but as the guide. Your job is to name the tension in the room and to show those people how they could stand up against it. You invite them into a story where they rise to the challenge. The next technique builds on that first one. You need to develop your presentation with a story structure if you're going to keep them engaged. Telling stories in your presentation is probably something you have heard before. It is good advice, but it's not new advice. It's also outdated advice. And here's why. You have to do more than tell a good story one time in the middle of your 20-minute presentation. It is not enough to keep attention. Here's our better advice. Structure the entire presentation like a story. And I don't just mean like nod along with me like, sure, yeah, I'll do that. Because chances are the next time you go to open a deck to start a presentation, you are going to start where you always start. Open a blank slide, throw some titles on, put some data in there. You're 10 slides deep. There's bullets, there's charts, scattered screenshots, but you didn't do what I just told you to do. Structure the entire presentation like a story. You can only do that if you start thinking like a storyteller at the beginning. And most people don't actually know what it means to structure your presentation like a story. But I'm going to tell you how we do it here at Duarte. We use structure that is rooted in narrative, not in slides. We don't open the slides first. Specifically, a structure is what is happening in their current world versus what could be happening when they enact the change that you want them to. And your job is to tell them how to get there. So this might sound, okay, kind of straightforward. There's what is and there's what could be, but let me break it down so it's crystal clear. What is their current reality? There's a shared truth that people in that room recognize, even if no one said it out loud. And it doesn't have to be controversial. It just has to be undeniably true. Your job is to name it. Say to your audience, I see you, I get you. At Microsoft Ignite 2023, Satya Nadella did exactly this. Very early in a keynote, he sets a ground for the reality of where AI adoption is at the time. Let's watch.
Just last week, I was at the OpenAI Dev Day and GitHub Universe, and now, of course, Ignite. But the interesting thing is we're entering this exciting new phase of AI where we're not just talking about it as technology that's new and interesting, but we're getting into the details of product making, deployment, safety, real productivity gains, all the real-world issues. And that's just the most exciting thing for all of us as builders.
Satya names what is. He acknowledges that AI is no longer a novelty. Here we are in the messy middle. We have moved beyond the hype, and we are deep in the friction of deployment and ethics and scaling. Now, it's a thrilling time for some people, but it's also chaotic and scary. These are the things that businesses and technical audience are wrestling with. He earns the audience's attention by reflecting back what they are feeling today. So once you've landed on that reality and it's clear that you framed it, you earn the right to paint a picture of a new world. This is your vision. And it's not just about what better outcomes would be, but it's better experiences. We call this what could be. And it shifts the energy of the entire presentation. So you go from mirroring the reality and painting the world of today to painting the world of tomorrow. The future then feels like it's possible. It's within grasp. It's something that's intuitive and collaborative. It feels human. Satya did this beautifully.
And today we are sharing lots of new data that shows real productivity gains that Copilot is already driving. We're taking a very broad lens to deeply understand the impact of Copilot on both the creativity and the productivity. And the results are pretty striking. With Copilots, we're able to complete tasks much faster. And that's having a real cascading effect on work and workflow everywhere. People who use Copilot are spending less time searching for information. They're holding more effective meetings. They're able to collaborate on work artifacts, right? Whether they're Word documents, spreadsheets, emails, all of them have richer context about their role, about their organization, so that they can collaborate much more and stay in focus. And of course, we're just getting started.
Do you feel it? The shift the keynote has right there. Satya doesn't just say technology is working. He shows the impact. He doesn't just talk about speed for speed's sakes. He talks about what it means to reclaim time, hold better meetings, find your flow, work with less friction and with more focus. So it's not just about improving business processes. It's about changing the entire work experience itself. And when he ends, we're just getting started. It's not a throwaway line. It's another pivot, a signal that the door to the future is wide open and that the audience has a role to play in shaping what comes next. That's a future I want. Once you've established that contrast between what is and what could be, you don't just move on. You oscillate between the two. You continue to build tension and release, ground and lift, reveal that gap, and then begin to close it for the audience. That's what Satya does next.
It starts with AI infrastructure layer and our approach to Azure as the world's computer. We offer the most comprehensive global infrastructure with more than 60 data center regions, more than any other provider. Being the world's computer means that we need to be even the world's best systems company across heterogeneous infrastructure. We work closely with our partners across the industry to incorporate the best innovation, from power to the data center, to the rack, to the network, to the core compute, as well as the AI accelerators. And in this new age of AI, we are redefining everything across the fleet and the data center.
Satya is grounding his earlier promise in the machinery required to deliver it all. Because what could be is frictionless. It's deeply human, AI-powered. Then this is how that need exists in order to make that future possible. He goes on to talk about performance and benchmarks, walks everyone through energy sourcing, fiber innovation, cooling systems. It is dense, but it is very deliberate. And then, just when you might expect him to stay in the weeds, he lifts us out again. He brings the audience back into the narrative, back into the what could be.
All of this innovation will only be useful if it's empowering all of us in our careers, in our communities, in our countries.
Oh, there it is. The full swing of the arc, from the current constraints of infrastructure to the racks and liquid cooling to 8 billion people accessing wisdom, guidance, support on demand. Now, that idea has a whole lot of context. It's not just a product or a strategy. It is a bridge between two states, between the complexity of now and the potential of what's next. That is the heart of a story structure. And if you really want to get intentional about it, you can take it one step further and ask yourself, who is my audience when they walk out of this room? And when you do that, you're able to talk to them. That's the arc. And you're the one that helps them take that journey. This is the same structure great communicators and story writers have used for centuries. That tension and release, the rhythm of the challenge and the possibility. That's the emotional rise that keeps people leaning in. This isn't the way most people were taught to build their presentations. But once you've used it, even just once, you will find it so hard to go back. Because when you structure your talk like a story, you're not just sharing information, you are guiding the audience through a shift in their perspective. And that shift is what makes your message unforgettable. This next technique also happens before you ever step on stage. And this is another piece of advice that's going to sound familiar, but stay with me. You have probably heard it phrased a dozen different ways. Start with connection, build rapport, engage your audience early. In theory, they are all correct. Of course, it is important to connect with your audience. Before you dive into your content, you want to get on the same page as them. But here's the thing nobody really talks about. So how do I do it? It's easy to assume that connection just happens. Maybe you make a joke or you reference the weather. And those are fine things to do, but they are not enough today. Real connection takes more than a clever icebreaker. It takes intention and empathy. Steve Jobs, for example, does this so well. He was known for his presence on stage, but what people forget or maybe can't see in an old recording is he was also known for arriving early and talking to people in the audience. He built rapport before delivering a single word. And that made all the difference. You don't have to be Steve Jobs to do this. You just need to be intentional. And this is where the idea of knowing your audience really well pays off. Because connecting with your audience isn't just about being charismatic. It's about knowing more and caring more so that you learn more. There are some practical ways that you can do this, whether you've got a big main stage presentation coming up or you're talking about a team meeting that you're joining. The first one is arrive early. Seriously, 10 minutes before showtime, just get there. Next, actually talk to the people in the room. A novel concept, I know. But instead of going over your speaker notes in the corner or fiddling with your tech, yes, please still do a full tech check. But here's your chance if you get there early and talk to them. Ask them why they're here. Ask them what they're hoping to learn. Ask them what's on their mind. And then use it. Reference someone else's insight in your talk where it makes sense. It instantly makes your talk feel more human. Easy way to do it. Right before this session started, I spoke with a few of you. Someone in the front row, Janae, said something to me and it really struck me. That's a little ad lib. Didn't take me any effort. And all of a sudden, I didn't just earn Janae's attention. Everyone that's sitting near Janae probably sat up a little straighter too. And anyone who knows her anywhere in the room probably did it. But even if someone doesn't know who Janae is, all of a sudden I've positioned myself as a speaker that cares about the audience. I care what you care about. I listen to the things that you tell me and I incorporate them in this moment we're having together. Try to do it within the first 2 minutes if you can. If you can find a way to interact with your audience in the first 2 minutes, it is a very simple way and it's often overlooked. It doesn't need to be the first words out of your mouth, but some way to build that interaction. Don't just wait to tack it on at the end. If you're like, I got a Q&A, don't worry, we'll have interaction. That's not the same. It's not what I'm talking about. You got to do it in the middle. One way to do this is to pose a question to the audience, but most people, it's off when they do it. So I'm going to give you some examples of how you can pose that question to get some more engagement from the audience, but not make it go overboard. So here's an example. Some people might have a question to the audience that sounds something like this. How many of you have more than 5 browser tabs open right now? Okay, that's like a moment of interaction, right? But when you think about how that really plays out for an audience, how are they supposed to make that real? I pose the question, how many have more than 5 browser tabs open? If I'm in the audience, I'm thinking, am I supposed to raise my hand right now to tell you? Am I supposed to shout out if it's me? Was that really a question or was that like one of those rhetorical questions? So now, instead of you creating a moment of connection with the audience, all you've done is created a moment of confusion. Well, okay, let me try it a different way. Hey, show of hands right now, everyone who has more than 5 browser tabs open. Okay? Okay, a lot of you. Keep your hands up if there's 10. Right? Sounds good? Cool. How about 20? Oh, less hands, but these are my people. That's right, me too. Wow, right there. totally different moment we created with the same idea about how we could have some interaction. So this is something that you can do to bring that home with your people in the audience. Let them know that you're here, you're with them, and you're ready to engage throughout the presentation. Now, you can also try to interact with your audience throughout with subtle moves, like making eye contact with them immediately upon stage, making sure you're looking people in the eye, or pay attention to where you see people nodding along, or maybe their eyebrows are raised. That's an opening. They're telling you they're having a reaction. And if you as a speaker can put the speaker notes aside and acknowledge it with something simple like, I've seen a few nods just now, and I'm wondering whether or not you're really feeling it, that's a great way for you to form connection. Or maybe, hey, someone over there just did something with their face, and I'm not going to call them out, but it makes me think this isn't landing with you all the way I wanted it to. So let me back up. Try to do things like that. Look for moments where your audience is giving you cues. If you can train yourself to at least every 30 seconds, really look at the people in the audience and figure out if they're saying anything to you. That is the way. That's how you can make sure you're speaking to them, you're interacting them, and you're including them. And that lets you do it without anything that's super gimmicky. Plus, you're not waiting until the end to get interaction. It's really just too late. But a few of these well-timed moments throughout the presentation lets them know that you're in this together. The fifth technique is to use movement with intention. On stage, how you move isn't just a matter of your comfort or your style, it's a matter of trust and clarity and control. Now, here's what we see all the time. Presenters usually fall into one of two camps. You've got your pacers. These are people who drift back and forth like a nervous panther. Our own founder, Nancy Duarte, will tell you herself that she used to be like a caged lion on stage before she got speaker coaching. Or you're a planter, glued to one spot like your shoes are bolted to the floor. And both of these are sending signals to your audience, but I bet they're not the signals that you want to send. At Duarte, we coach presenters to move with purpose. Every step or shift or gesture doesn't have to be prescribed, but it is an opportunity to earn attention of your audience and help make sure that message lands with them. Humans are wired to follow motion and they're drawn to this movement, but it only matters if it means something. So when you move with clarity, your body is helping to reinforce the message. And one of the easiest ways to do this is what we call stage mapping or blocking. So picture the space where you need to give a talk. It doesn't matter if it's a big keynote stage or you're just at the conference table. And then break it into zones, each one having some sort of meaning. Use the right side of the stage when you're talking about the past or what is. And if you can't walk, you can do so with your gestures. But then you move to the center when you're talking about your main idea. And then when you're talking about what could be, go over stage left over here. And it follows the way your audience's eyes would naturally follow as you're talking about past and present or bad and good. And their brains will start to believe you and mirror inside what your body is doing. It's just the way the brain-body connection works. We also coach speakers to ground their gestures. You don't want to just flail your hands about. You want it to happen with some purpose. When you're standing especially, it's much easier to let your arms rest at their sides sometimes. And then you can gesture with opening when you're describing something like possibility. But you might get more closed off and scrunched when you're talking about something that has tension to it. All of this movement, it echoes the emotion. It doesn't distract from it. And just because you can move doesn't mean you have to move. There is good reason to find moments of stillness. Stillness commands attention, especially when it's paired with a bold statement or a big insight. It helps to build some suspense and make the message land even better. So the goal isn't just move more, it's move better and with intention. And I promise you, the more you do it, the more it becomes automatic. I rarely think about what I'm doing with my hands anymore, but there was a time when I used to write them in my speaker notes every single gesture I did. Eventually, your body just understands how to move with purpose, how to pause where it's powerful, and let your presence be the thing that helps drive the narrative forward. And finally, this one might sound obvious, but it's where everything either comes to life or completely falls apart. You have got to learn to read the room in real time. Even the most beautifully crafted presentations can fall flat if the energy in the room isn't with you. And you can't always predict it. You can't always know if you're going to nail a talk. You might have had a talk where the three audiences before loved everything you did. You get into the new room with the new audience, and it has got its own personality. And that's why you really do have to listen throughout. It means observing all of those little shifts. And not so you can interact with them, but just so that you're ready to change the content up as you need, or change your delivery up. Maybe you need to find places where your rate gets a little bit faster because you've noticed people getting distracted or nodding off. It's your job to respond the right way. So one of the best ways that you can do this is get comfortable taking that mental scan of the room, noticing what you're seeing, and being ready to break from the content that you planned to present. Check in with yourself on this. Double check. Am I talking to my audience? Have I gone too slowly? Am I reading off my slides? And if you notice that you've done that, you've probably lost them. Try not to panic. Acknowledge that you got away from yourself. Acknowledge that you want to take a beat. And I know it seems counterintuitive to kind of break that fourth wall with your audience, but it just builds so much trust. And they realize that, oh, you've picked up on a shift here. Great. And now you've told them something like, hey, for this next part, I'm going to switch gears, but I want you to stay with me and I promise it's going to go somewhere. So now you saw their dull eyes and you did something to own the room and keep them engaged. You could also try a checkpoint. Like, I've noticed some of you are thinking really hard about what I just said, and that's absolutely what I was hoping for. I'm going to take a sip of my water and pause for a moment and see if I should answer any questions now. These tiny little moments reset the energy and it let your audience know you're with them, that you're not just performing at them, that you are guiding with them. And if you're wondering what to do in a moment where things are off, here's a toolkit to pull one. Shift your tone. If you have been really high energy and you're like, oh my gosh, they're sitting back in their seats, I've overwhelmed them, find a place to bring it down. Come in with some warmth, or maybe change the level of urgency. You can slow your pacing. You can add in some pausing. Changing that rhythm can help to reorient people in the room. Or maybe you really do just need to pause for a moment. Sometimes it's the most powerful thing you can do is just say nothing. It can snap their attention back, especially if you created a cadence where they expect you to fill all that silence. And look, having this kind of confidence in the moment, it can feel really tough. It might seem very far away from how you're presenting today, especially if you're someone who is in the middle of a slide and you're in the middle of a thought and you're in the middle of a nerves and it's just too much for you. Over time, it's going to become easier as long as you stay curious about what your audience needs in the moment and you're paying attention to them and you're more focused on that level of connection than you are on being a perfect presenter. It's all going to help your audience stay tuned, and it's going to build the trust that they have in you as their guide. Engagement is more than tips and tricks today. It is all about empathy. Most presenters don't start with empathy, and it is not because they aren't empathetic. It's because they are racing to get the next message out. They are under deadline. They want to make sure they're understood instead of pausing to make sure they understand their audience. But when that pause happens, that's where the moment of connection can happen. There's the big difference for you between delivering content and leading change. If you want to see what this looks like in action, Nancy broke it all down in her TED Talk video. She went through how she created her TED Talk and the structure of a great talk. That's something that really gets audiences on board. It helps make points land. It makes them memorable. And most importantly, it's how audiences feel like you get them. You can watch that talk at this link, or you can get into the description. I hope these tips help you do what you need to do to connect with your audience and be engaging for what audiences need today. Until next time.